Greetings from Wisconsin, which joined the Union on May 29, 1848, as the 30th state. With 5.5 million residents, Wisconsin ranks 20th in population. Wisconsin is known as the Badger State, but the origin of this nickname takes some explaining.
That came into Wisconsin in the 1820s up the Mississippi River.
They lived like badgers, under the ground, burrowing away, looking for lead.
There is no official state sport here, but if there were, a lot of Wisconsinites would vote for football.
Since 1934, I have only missed one home Wisconsin game.
For college ball, the University of Wisconsin at Madison is the hottest ticket in town. But you haven't really seen football until you've been to Green Bay. Fans throughout the state have a unique attachment to the NFL Packers, who got their name in 1919 when the Indian Packing Company ponied up $500 for team uniforms. The Packers are the only nonprofit, community-owned team in the league.
We have no owner, we all own shares. That gives us all a sense of participation in the team and its fate.
Pride of ownership makes a Packers season ticket a highly prized commodity.
To get a ticket for the Green Bay Packers, if you were born today, you would be somewhere around 35 years old before your name would come up in order to buy a ticket.
Sometimes, however, there's as much action in the parking lot before the game as there is on the field, thanks to a phenomenon called tailgating.
You can come into the parking lot on the day of a game and see anything from weddings to bar mitzvahs to maybe a birth. There's no place that tailgates like they do here.
Everybody has their own style of tailgating. I think that in Wisconsin, maybe we take it to another level.
Just got a 26-inch plasma screen TV, satellite dish, tappers that dispense beer. Last week we just put a grill on the hitch. Anything you need for a tailgate.
Around here, bratwurst is one of the preferred staples for tailgating. Small wonder, since Wisconsin is known as the bratwurst capital of America. Ussinger's famous sausage once held the record for the longest brat in the world.
We made a 62-foot long bratwurst for our 125th anniversary that we served at German Fest.
20-plus yards of brat calls for a lot of mustard, and you'll find the world's largest collection in Mount Horeb.
We have over 4,700 different mustards from all over the world.
Wisconsin does have a few more notable distinctions. The Harley-Davidson motorcycle was invented here in 1901 by two childhood friends from Milwaukee, William Harley and Arthur Walter Davidson. Not to be outdone, Carl Eliason of Sawyer helped pioneer another specialized vehicle in 1924, the snowmobile. Today, the World Championship Snowmobile Derby is held every year in Eagle River. It's the largest snowmobile race in the world, and one of the fastest, with top speeds of up to 90 miles per hour. Each spring, however, Wisconsin returns to what it does best, farming. Nationally, it ranks first in the production of feed corn, cranberries, and ginseng. But it was dairy farms that made Wisconsin famous around the world, though it took a while to get there.
Our first big crop in Wisconsin in the 1860s and 70s was wheat. But wheat really wasn't very suitable. Very soon it leached out the soils. If you're going to make money on dairy products, it's not going to be in raw milk in the 19th century. There's no refrigeration. So you convert it into something that's more durable.
Wisconsin is the largest cheese producer in the United States. 25% of all cheese produced in this country is produced in Wisconsin.
By 1915, Wisconsin had become the leading dairy provider in the nation. These days, 116 cheese plants churn out over 2 billion pounds of cheese a year in more than 600 varieties.
In Wisconsin, it's actually an honor to be called a cheesehead. We take that serious.
Although its official nickname is America's Dairyland, Wisconsin might be better known as America's beer garden.
The beer industry essentially started because of our German immigrant group. The Germans brought their brewmasters with them to Wisconsin. At one time, we had 400 breweries operating in Wisconsin. Every little town, nearly every little town, had a brewery. Milwaukee had 100 breweries operating at the same time.
Milwaukee's leading early brewers would later become household names. Valentine Blatz, Frederick Miller, Joseph Schlitz, and Frederick Pabst. But in the late 1860s, they were all struggling to get a foothold in the national market. Schlitz got the jump on his competitors by seeing opportunity in a disaster.
In 1871, the Great Chicago Fire took Chicago out of play for the making of beer for a long time.
And Schlitz He was a great market person. He loaded a steamboat load of beer and shipped it to Chicago. And the Chicago people said, "Schlitz, the beer that made Milwaukee famous." And it did, and that became their motto.
The Pabst Company got its big break in 1893 at the Columbian Exposition in Chicago. During a beer judging, Pabst beat out Anheuser-Busch of St. Louis for the coveted blue ribbon.
Pabst immediately went back to Milwaukee, and they bought a bunch of blue satin ribbons. And they hand-tied ribbons to the bottles of beer that they sent out, and thus the birth of Pabst Blue Ribbon beer.
By the turn of the 20th century, Milwaukee had emerged as America's leading brew center. Much of its product was shipped to ports around the world via Wisconsin's primary link to the Atlantic Ocean, the Great Lakes. The Great Lakes are actually vast inland seas. 30 lighthouses still stand along Wisconsin's shores to guide sailors across the waters, where it's not uncommon to have hurricane-force winds and 30-foot waves that can sink ships.
The bottom of the lakes are littered, literally all over the coastlines, with the remnants of these tragic moments.
Because of the northern latitude of the Great Lakes, the water tends to remain very cold, especially on the bottom. So it acts like a preserving agent for the shipwrecks. They're literally kept in cold storage on the bottom of the lakes and well preserved.
One of the 700 sunken ships that lie off Wisconsin's shores is the Rouse Simmons. On November 23, 1912, the three-masted schooner went down in a fierce gale along with its entire crew and a cargo of freshly cut Christmas trees. Almost 60 years later, divers discovered the ship nearly intact, resting in 165 feet of water.
Diving the Rouse Simmons is a fantastic experience because as you're coming down the mooring line, literally you see the wreck open up below you and you can literally touch a piece of 19th century history before you. The Christmas trees themselves are still stacked neatly in the hold just as they were in 1912.
Diving Wisconsin's frigid waters may seem daunting to some, but the state's cold climate is something locals embrace. Just one more reason to love their home state.
The places that surround Wisconsin, Illinois and Minnesota and places like that, the people that live in those states say, you know, when you ask them why they live there, they said so they can be close to Wisconsin, you know. So that's why they live there.
Look here, I'm talking about America, sweet America.